apologize. I'm working on a different computer here, so it's a little different for me. It's a little tiny. But anyhow, good evening, everyone, and welcome to, please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so that you can follow along. And then tonight's recap will start on page 115, and end on page 117. Our study tonight will start on page 117 and end on page 119. Oh, thanks. And Trish has it in the chat. So any announcements?
I've got 2 announcements tonight. I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you everybody for being here. The first announcement is we have a regularly scheduled group conscience on Monday, January 13th, which means our group officer meeting will be the Sunday before that, which looks like it will be the 5th, so I need to get notifications out about that. And we need to get cracking on the next round of proofreading for the script that we use for this study. So anybody who is available next week, since I'm off, and I know not everybody's off, but if you're home and available and you want to join us, pop me a note in the chat and your phone number if I don't have it, and we can try to coordinate times to get everybody who wants to involved in that. So that would be a great thing, and that's all I've got tonight.
So, good evening, everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Shayna, or Serenity Pickle. Welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation, followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so take a moment to get situated.
All right, please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing, as not to distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. Friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share. We will call on you in the order hands are raised.
And from the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus your breath and posture. Breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to connect with God and let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study. And let's have those cute little monks come on in. And let's go ahead and join in on our family's fog light prayer, which will be coming up on a screen near you. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those who are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Amen.
And our secretary, Lisa, come on in.
Everyone, I'm filling in tonight. My name is Lisa, and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. I've asked Kenny to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Kenny.
Honey?
Candy, unmute, please.
Recovered. We are not cured from alcoholism. Recovered but not cured, that presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime, but we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
I don't think we have anybody. Welcome back, everyone.
And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? I am.
You are.
I am. I made 3 months today.
Yay!
Hey, congratulations.
There you go, Jay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Lisa, there's yours, 1 year.
Wow.
Thank you. Beautiful. Anybody else? If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in the chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat. Thank you, and see you next week.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. And from chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking, for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 8. Tonight, let's take a look at Tradition 9. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And come on in, Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry, recovered alcoholic, aka Pickle Chips. Okay, I'm filling in for the fill-in tonight. So, this is Tradition 9. The short form states, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. And the long form says, each AA group needs the least possible organization. Rotating leadership is the best. The small group may elect its secretary, the large group its rotating committee, and the groups of a large metropolitan area their central or intergroup committee, which often employs a full-time secretary. The trustees of the General Service Board are, in effect, our AA General Service Committee. They are the custodians of our AA traditions and the receivers of voluntary AA contributions by which we maintain our AA General Service Office at New York. They are authorized by the groups to handle our overall public relations, and they guarantee the integrity of our principal newspaper, the AA Grapevine. All such representatives are to be guided in the spirit of service, for true leaders in AA are but trusted and experienced service of the whole. They derive no real authority from their titles. They do not govern. Universal respect is the key to their usefulness. And if you refer to Tradition 3 on page 62, it says the only requirement for wait. There it is. Tradition 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. So apparently Bill thought that was important enough to stress twice. So I did a little snooping around, a little reading up on this tradition, because it is kind of contradictory. On one hand, they're saying, no organization. On the other hand, they're saying, that we have these trusted servants and committees. But what I took away from this, from reading up a little bit, a lot of you know I like the history part of this, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of history about big, huge mistakes that were made in order for this to come about. I think it was just good common sense that we don't have people that run the show. Because in one of the readings I read, I couldn't go back and find it, but it says, we alcoholics hate to be told what to do. And I totally agree with that. We would hate it if somebody came in and said, you need to do this, you need to do that, and have a list of things that we have to do. So therefore, we are not um, okay. Wait. So we're not organized per se, even though we do have service boards made up of people that are of service to AA, and we can employ outside workers, which we've dealt with that by reading the big book. This is kind of interesting, though. It says AA is so unorganized that someone once suggested we put up a sign in each AA club saying, anything goes here, folks, except you mustn't smoke opium in the elevators. And that's from AA Comes of Age. So it was kind of fun reading up and reviewing this, but it is a contradictory tradition. But to summarize, let's keep it simple, because that's what AA is all about. Thanks for letting me be your traditionalist tonight.
Thank you, Terry. Great job, especially for coming in last minute. Because, folks, sometimes life happens, and even if we have a plan on being here, it doesn't always happen. So we always have backups. Yeah. So now it is time for this week's installment of That Ain't in the Big Book. And we hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as it's described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things we often hear is 90 meetings in 90 days. And Jay, could you come in and tell us what it says on page 59 in paragraph 3 about that, please? Oh, sorry about that. I muted you.
So it says, here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery.
Thank you, Jay.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we are going to start our recap on page 115, which will be read tonight by Susan, followed by the study portion read by Jim, and after the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium. Starting back on our study portion that was read by Susan. The study portion that was read by Jim. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
And however, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point, we didn't just randomly open the book to page 115 tonight and say this is where we're going to read. We are in our 4th year of this study, or in our 4th year of being a group, coming up next month on our 5th year of being a group. And as we study this book, we start on the title page where we find our first promise, how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And then we read through the preface, the forewords, and each and every Roman number page and all of the other pages up through 164. So we're reading from page XI, the preface, all the way up to 164 in this question and answer format. And we do this because, as we said, the questions gives us a little bit more understanding of what it is that we're reading. There's 3 times in the study where we're referred to go to the Appendix 2, the spiritual experience. And we do that as a part of the study. But once we get to page 164, we then read Dr. Bob's Nightmare in the same format. We spend 2 weeks on the traditions. And then our final week of the study, week 94, we do a standalone study just of the spiritual experience, because that spirituality is a big part of our program. And then once we read that, we go all the way back to the beginning and we do it again. So we are in season 3, or our 3rd time in going through the book, and we're in our 4th year of being a group, coming up on year 5 being a group in January. And then in April will be our 5th year of being a 100% Zoom meeting. So that's how we got here tonight, folks.
Awesome. Now, before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and our YouTube channel. All right, Susan, would you like to start with tonight's recap? Again, this is on page 115, starting with the same principle applies, and we end on page 117. This is as it should be.
My name is Susan. I am an alcoholic. Good evening, family. Good evening, guys. Right, the same principle applies in dealing with the children. Unless they actually need protection from their father, it is best not to take sides in any argument he has with them while drinking. Use your energies to promote a better understanding all around. Then that terrible tension which grips the home of every problem drinker will be lessened. Frequently you have felt obliged to tell your husband's employer and his friends that he was sick, when as a matter of fact he was tight. Avoid answering these inquiries as much as you can. Whenever possible, let your husband explain. Your desire to protect him should not cause you to lie to people when they have a right to know where he is and what he is doing. Discuss this with him when he is sober and in good spirits. Ask him what you should do if he places you in such a position again, but be careful not to be resentful about the last time he did so. There is another paralyzing fear. You may be afraid your husband will lose his position. You are thinking of the disgrace and hard times which will befall you and the children. this experience may come to you, or you may already have had it several times. Should it happen again, regard it in a different light. Maybe it will prove a blessing. It may convince your husband he wants to stop drinking forever, and now you know that he can stop if he will. Time after time, this apparent calamity, this apparent calamity has been a boon to us, for it opened up a path which led to the discovery of God. We have elsewhere remarked how much better life is when lived on a spiritual plane. If God can solve the age-old riddle of alcoholism, he can solve your problems too. We wives found that like everybody else, we were afflicted with pride, self-pity, vanity, and all the things which go to make up the self-centered person, and we were not above selfishness or dishonesty. As our husbands began to apply spiritual principles in their lives, we began to see the desirability of doing so too. At first, some of us did not believe we needed this help. We thought, on the whole, we were pretty good women, capable of being nicer if our husbands stopped drinking. But it was a silly idea that we were too good to need God. Now we try to put spiritual principles to work in every department of our lives. When we do that, we find it solves our problems too. The ensuing lack of fear, worry, and hurt feelings is a wonderful thing. We urge you to try our program, for nothing will be so helpful to your husband as the radically changed attitude toward him, which God will show you how to have. Go along with your husband if you possibly can. If you and your husband find a solution for the pressing problem of drink, you are, of course, going to be very happy. But all problems will not be solved at once. Seed has started to sprout in a new soil, but growth has only begun. In spite of your newfound happiness, there will be ups and downs. Many of the old problems will still be with you. This is as it should be.
Excellent. Thank you, Susan. And Jim, are you ready for our study tonight? We are
Yes, I
starting
am.
start right where Susan left off,
Alrighty.
and then we end. You know where we're ending?
Not sure.
We start right after Susan, and it's the faith and sincerity, and then we'll end on page 119, undreamed of future.
All right, very good.
All right.
Okay. The faith and serenity of both you and your husband will be put to the test. These workouts should be regarded as part of your education, for thus you will be learning to live. You will make mistakes, but if you are earnest, they will not drag you down. Instead, you will capitalize on them. A better way of life will emerge when they are overcome. Some of the snags you will encounter are irritation, hurt feelings, and resentments. Your husband will sometimes be unreasonable and you will want to criticize. Starting from a speck on the domestic horizon, great thunderclouds of dispute may gather. These family dissensions are very dangerous, especially to your husband. Often you must carry the burden of avoiding them or keeping them under control. Never forget that resentment is a deadly hazard to an alcoholic. We do not mean that you have to agree with your husband whenever there is an honest difference of opinion. Just be careful not to disagree in a resentful or critical spirit. You and your husband will find that you can dispose of serious problems easier than you can the trivial ones. Next time you have a heated discussion, no matter what the subject, it should be the privilege of either to smile and say, "This is getting serious. I'm sorry I got disturbed. Let's talk about it later." If your husband is trying to live on a spiritual basis, he will also be doing everything in his power to avoid disagreement or contention. Your husband knows he owes you more than sobriety. He wants to make good, yet you must not expect too much. His way of thinking and doing are the habits of years. Patience, tolerance, understanding, and love are the watchwords. Show him these things in yourself, and they will be reflected back to you from him. Live and let live is the rule. If you both show a willingness to remedy your own defects, there will be little need to criticize each other. We women carry with us a picture of the ideal man, the sort of chap we would like our husbands to be. It is the most natural thing in the world, once his liquor problem is solved, to feel that he will now measure up to that cherished vision. The chances are he will not, for, like yourself, he is just beginning his development. Be patient. Another feeling we are very likely to entertain is one of resentment that love and loyalty could not cure our husbands of alcoholism. We do not like the thought that the contents of a book or the work of another alcoholic has accomplished in a few weeks that for which we struggled for years. At such moments, we forget that alcoholism is an illness over which we could not possibly have had any power. Your husband will be the first to say it was your devotion and care which brought him to the point where he could have a spiritual experience. Without you, he would have gone to pieces long ago. When resentful thoughts come, try to pause and count your blessings. After all, your family is reunited, alcohol is no longer a problem, and you and your husband are working together towards an undreamed of future. And that's it, isn't it?
That is. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right, and so far we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 hands. Yay! And let me write everyone down so I know which batting order we are going in. I have... Okay. I have Linda, Susan, Jay, Kenny, and William. So we are starting back up on page 117 from the very beginning of what Jay read. And we are going line by line, just one sentence, unless I specify otherwise. And I ask the question, and we reread the study portion. Okay, so Linda, coming to you. What now will be put to the test?
I'm going to turn my sound up.
Oh, yes. And for those readers, please unmute yourself. I forgot to mention that. I apologize.
The faith and serenity of both you and your husband will be put to the test.
Thank you. And Susan, this is a 2-part question, still one sentence. How should these disagreements be regarded? Why would we view them in that light?
These workouts should be regarded as part of your education, for thus you will be learning to live.
Thank you. And Jay, will the mistakes you make bring an end to your efforts?
You will make mistakes, but if you are in earnest, they will not drag you down.
Excellent. Thank you. And Kenny, instead, how will we view them?
Instead, you will capitalize them.
Excellent. And William, what will emerge as you persevere?
A better way of life will emerge when they are overcome.
Excellent. Going back to Linda. What are some snags you will encounter?
Some of the snags you will encounter are irritation, hurt feelings, and resentments.
Excellent. And Susan, another 2-part, but still one sentence. How will your hubby be on occasions? How will you be tempted to respond?
Your husband will sometimes be unreasonable, and you will want to criticize.
Excellent. Jay, if you do, Where may it lead?
Starting, wait, hold on. Starting from a speck on domestic horizons with great thunderous clouds of dispute might gather.
Yep. And Kenny, this is a two-part question, still one sentence. What are these dissensions within the family, especially to whom?
These family dissensions are very dangerous, especially to your husband.
Thank you. And William, in troubled times, what must you do?
Often you must carry the burden of avoiding them or keeping them under control.
Excellent. And Linda, what can you never forget?
Never forget that resentment is a deadly hazard to an alcoholic.
Absolutely. And Susan, do you always have to give in to him because of this?
We do not mean that you have to agree with your husband whenever there is an honest difference of opinion.
Excellent. Jay, just be careful to not do what?
Just be careful to not disagree in a resentful or critical spirit.
Great. And Kenny, what will you both find?
You and your husband will find that you can dispose of serious problems easier than you can the trivial ones.
Excellent. And William, the next time the two of you get into it, what should one of you say? These, and it's 4 sentences, please.
Next time you and he having a heated discussion, no matter what the subject, it should be a privilege of either to smile and say, "This is getting serious. I'm sorry. I got disturbed. Let's talk about it later."
There you go. Thank you, William.
I didn't want to do that.
And Linda, if your husband is serious about his recovery, he will do what?
If your husband is trying to live on a spiritual basis, he will also be doing everything in his power to avoid disagreement or contention.
Absolutely. And Susan, what is it your husband knows?
Your husband knows he owes you more than sobriety.
Absolutely. And Jay, what does he want to do?
He wants to make you good, yet you must not settle.
Nope,
Right
that's
there.
all. Just that one. Good job. And Kenny, you shouldn't do what?
Yet you must not expect too much.
That's right. And William, what is his initial problem?
His ways of thinking and doing are the habits of years.
Absolutely. And what are the watchwords?
Who?
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear. Okay.
No, I may have had a little technical glitch there.
Okay.
What are the watchwords?
Okay. They are patience, tolerance, understanding, and love are the watchwords.
And I have one comment to come in with tonight, and that is, do these qualities sound as if they may be a product of steps 9 and 10?
Absolutely. Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Trish. And going to Susan. If you have learned to demonstrate these to him, what will you receive back from him?
Show him these things in yourself, and they will be reflected back to you from him.
Oh, Excellent. And Jay, what slogan is quoted here?
Live and let live is the rule.
I know that's right. And Kenny, if each of you is applying the steps to your individual lives, what will be the result?
If you both show a willingness to remedy your own defect, there will be little need to criticize each other.
Absolutely. William, what do women carry?
We will carry with us a picture of the ideal man, the sort of chap we would like our husband to be.
Yes. And Linda, once he has recovered, what is it natural to feel?
It is the most natural thing in the world, once his liquor problem is solved, to feel that he will now measure up to that cherished vision.
Right. And Susan, two-part question, just one sentence though. Are the chances pretty good that he will become Mr. Wonderful overnight? And why is that?
The chances are he will not, for like yourself, he is just beginning his development.
And Jay, you must try to be what?
Another feeling we are.
Oh, no. Back up. It's a short little guy.
Be patient.
There it is. Thank you. And Kenny, what is another hurdle you might encounter?
Another feeling we are very likely to entertain is one of resentment that love and loyalty could not cure a husband of alcoholism.
Thank you. William, what thought may really bother us?
We do not like the thought that a content of a book or the work of another alcoholic has accomplished it in a few weeks, that for which we struggle for years.
And Linda, when such thoughts occur, what is it that we have forgotten?
At such moments, we forget that alcoholism is an illness over which we could not possibly have had any power.
Absolutely. Susan, what will your husband be the first to say?
Your husband will be the first to say it was your devotion and care which brought him to the point where he could have a spiritual experience.
Okay. And Jay, without you, what would have happened to him?
Without you, he would have gone to peace long ago.
Yes. Kenny, when these thoughts occur, try to replace them with what?
I missed it.
When these thoughts occur, try to replace them with what? It starts with when resentful.
When resentful thoughts come, try to pause and count your blessings.
And then, William, after all, what has taken place?
After all, your family is reunited. Alcohol is no longer a problem, and you and your husband are working together towards an undreamed of future.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. And so this will open up the sharing portion of the meeting. If you have experiences with a portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. Please be mindful of your time and that others may have their hands raised and are waiting to share. A friendly reminder as we share, absence of profanity offends no one. We are now open for comments, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences based on what was just read.
How long is the share for?
We aim for under 5 minutes. And I believe we will have a little timer bee.
Mm-hmm. Right there. Okay.
Yay!
So once someone starts sharing, I'll turn it on. So if I put it at 4 minutes, is that acceptable to the group?
I think we were trying for 5. I think that's what we agreed on. Maybe I'm telling a fib.
We aim for 5 minutes of the timer, but when the timer goes off, if you are in the middle of the share, you don't have to automatically stop right then. Just start wrapping it up.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, but I gotta go. I got a family emergency.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for your service.
Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Have a good day, Jay.
You too. Good night.
Night.
All right, we're going to need some hands tonight. Or I'm going to... Oh, yay, Lisa! Come on in, girl.
Hey everyone, I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. This is all the stuff I've been working on. You know, I wish I knew this before, but thinking about it, if I was reading it before I did my work, I don't know if it would have helped. I think finding out my patterns and the things I needed to work on, that's what really helped my perspective, change my perspective when dealing with someone else's disease. I was able to find that compassion and be able to look at the disease, not the person. Um, the sick man's prayer really helps. But it's getting easier, and it's because I'm learning. The past weeks reading all of this and yeah, it's fantastic, and it's all the things that I didn't do and all the things that I shouldn't have done, and I didn't understand. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I couldn't see what I couldn't see. But I'm very grateful that, life is getting easier. And it's because I'm healing, and being able to see things differently. And where it was, pausing and being able to find be grateful and find gratitude, that really really helps a lot also. And yeah, so yeah, like I said, this past it's just really helped me. And I had always hear through the years, oh, every time I read the big book, or I learn something, and I was just and it's just so true. It really is. And hearing people's different perspectives also, and going, yeah, right, and just relating to everything. And yeah, so that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. And Trish, come on in.
Thanks, Shayna. Thanks for taking the meeting tonight. And for everybody who jumped into service last minute, some of you. I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. And, you know, I was one of those people when I first came in, I looked at this chapter, it's like, I'm not married, I don't need this chapter, it's not going to apply to me. But despite that, there's a lot of stuff in here that I can recognize, where I can recognize myself as the husband of the husband of the alcoholic, or the relative of an alcoholic. But I can also see through this chapter how my drinking affected the rest of my family members, my parents, my siblings, my close friends, my roommates over different periods of time. And I love how at this point in the chapter we're starting to get into not just how the wife can help the alcoholic, but how the wives can also benefit from the spiritual way of life. And by living these steps, living these spiritual principles. And it's one of our pre-Al-Anon chapters. Al-Anon wasn't around at this point. So while so many people now refer family members to Al-Anon, there's a lot of information in here for those people, for the families, on how they can help the alcoholic, but also how we being in that position myself, how we can help ourselves as the family member of an alcoholic. And even saying, in part of our reading last week, we didn't believe we needed this help. We thought we were pretty good women. And then beginning of tonight's reading, the faith and sincerity of both you and your husband will be put to the test. And you're learning to live, you'll make mistakes, but, you know, I made plenty of mistakes in early sobriety. I made plenty of mistakes when helping other people get sober in early sobriety, in their early sobriety and in mine. But we grew together. And, you know, those snags it talks about, the irritation, the hurt feelings, the resentments, I'm going to get that whether it's someone I'm living with, someone I'm a friend with, someone that I'm working with, just because, you know, we're people and those are normal feelings. And, you know, but I can't criticize what somebody else is doing. I have to look at what I'm doing and why am I feeling these things? Why am I feeling this stuff? And I love why that comment came in that I had. Patience, tolerance, understanding, and love. And the comment of, do these qualities sound as if they're a product of steps 9 and 10? If I'm living a spiritual program, I can be better help to somebody in directing them towards that spiritual program. And it talks about resentment is a deadly hazard to an alcoholic. So as an alcoholic, I don't want to live in that resentment. But as someone trying to work with an alcoholic or to help an alcoholic, I don't want to be in that resentment either. And I also don't want to have them living in that resentment as well. And one of the phrases that I use a whole lot in my life and when talking with others is, if a conversation is getting heated, if it's getting serious, or if we've reached an impasse, remembering that I can always say, let's talk about this later. Let's take a step back. Let's take that pause. And recognizing that I'm living on this spiritual basis that I wasn't years ago. And oftentimes the people that I'm working with are just learning to live on this spiritual basis. And sometimes taking a pause in a conversation is the best thing, rather than just butting our heads together. And if we're both showing a willingness to grow, a willingness to look at where can I make a change. Sometimes it's a pause in conversation, sometimes it's a realization during that conversation of, hey, I shouldn't have said that. Or I shouldn't have said that like that. Or that's just something I shouldn't have said at all. recognizing that, you know, I've got to watch what I'm saying, I've got to watch what I'm doing. And as I'm watching what I'm doing, I can be an example to someone else. And I can use this chapter not just as a spouse of an alcoholic, but also as a friend of an alcoholic, as a coworker of an alcoholic, working with someone else who loves an alcoholic. And thank you for that.
Thank you, Trish. And Larry, come on in.
I'm Larry, and I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, you know, when I read this chapter for the first time, I guess I didn't get a lot of it. I should have got more out of it, but I did get some out of it, and I I was in a I was in I was still married when I first got sober. I was in my third marriage, and it was already rocky. I think, you know. Well, actually, it was rocky. I got married while in the program by when everybody told me not to, but and it didn't take no time to become rocky, I should say. And I used the program to try to solve some of the problems in the marriage, and even in this chapter somewhat. But I, you know, and it helped, but you know, it does take two people, and I wish that maybe she would have read this with me, but she wouldn't. She wouldn't. Uh, she wouldn't own anything, and she wouldn't. It just was easier. I think I wasn't invested enough, and I should have been invested more. I think I think I didn't share enough about my relationship with my sponsor. I look back on it now. I He had a lot of my relationship problems from my sponsor, and that's on me. And I have to take that responsibility. Had my sponsor really known what was going on in my home life, maybe he could have helped me a little more in my relationship issues. But since I hid it, he had no insight on helping me, and therefore I floundered. I was not that experienced, and I was never any good in relationships. Uh, uh, I look back now and I see this chapter as helping me in my with my first marriage, because right now we are best of friends, and so I think it really has helped me in the use of this. And another thing, it has helped me in conflicts within this program when I get when people in the program have had I've had disagreements, and I've used similar versions of this with the help of sponsors and people within the program for conflict, and just using these words, not let's take a step back, but they have kind of twisted that, and they've taught me to say these words. You know, maybe you know, maybe you're right in some of the things you've said, and I'm going to think about it, and it that kind of has ended the conflict, you know, the heated discussion that was going on, and we both just taken a step back, you know, and I've used that many times. Maybe you're right in some of the things you've said. I need to just go home and think about it. And man, I've used that, and it's just helped me in conflict situations. Uh, and you know, there's many things in this chapter that has really helped me, and I hope one day maybe that it will bring help me in a relationship if God be so willing. Anyway, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Larry. And William, come on in.
Thank you so much. Thank everybody for your service tonight. My name is William Alcoholic. Definitely, when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, that slogan, "Live and Let Live," was one of the foundations for my steps into my sobriety. Because it was hard for me to allow everybody, somebody else's opinion, disagree with their disagreements and stuff that's going on. Even when I first came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. But definitely when we were reading this tonight, I really got a lot out of the reading and stuff because I could see, you know, they had struck gold when they found these spiritual principles, you know. And I could see one thing, how alcoholism without a drink from an alcoholic could bring up the same thing that the alcoholic walked around inside of him, you know. So, yeah, and when it came up with the spiritual principles and stuff, and to me, too, it was an educational way for me to learn about these spiritual principles. They tell me to keep coming. Go to Big Book meeting, go to literature meeting, go to 12-step meeting, go to meetings, period. Go to meeting, period. Listen to other people share. And that's how I got educated on it. Today, I truly believe in it. As we look back over this, you know, and I can see what they say we got some good, you know, we struck gold, Alador, Alateen, Gamblers Anonymous, all these other 12-step programs that spin off of this. For every human need it is. They have one from these spiritual principles. And I don't never remember in my relationship, right? I had some left me because I wasn't a person. I just disappeared. I would disappear in a minute, you know, and be gone. You know, I wasn't a person in a heated argument or nothing because I figured, you know, I deserve this, you know, and I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do, what a man's supposed to do, what I want to do, what I want to do. You know, I didn't know the effect it had on other people. And I tell you a quick story. You know, I had this young lady was a church going lady, you know, and I convinced her to come and live with us, live with me before we get married. Her mother knew better. Her mother said, "Don't you live with that boy," and stuff like that. And I didn't realize the emotional pain that I was inflicting on her until I got sober. You know, she didn't drink. I didn't realize what was going on with her. I would go out 2 or 3 days and wouldn't call her, wouldn't say nothing to her. And she worked for a bank. She asked me and said, "What you be doing out there?" I said, she was a manager, a National Bank of North America. I said, "I be gambling." She said, "I could take $100,000 out of that bank and they wouldn't miss it." And the good side of me said, "No, don't do that. Don't do that." You know what I mean? Anyhow, whenever she left and I got sober, she used to have the Bible laying on the side of the bed. And beside that Bible was a honey with about a half of it. She had drank half of that honey beer. And I didn't realize what I was doing until I came back for her. And I remember she got up and moved. Like I was a green guy. She got up and moved to Atlanta, Georgia. Got married, had 5 kids. And she didn't want to talk to me no more. She wouldn't say nothing, but her family told me what was going on in her life. She got married, 5 kids, and she bought a whole lot of real estate, rented stuff down in Atlanta, Georgia, and stuff. But I'm happy for her. What I mean. But today I know what was going on because of getting educated on the Islam alcoholism. And I remember them taking me down to the church, the family taking me down to the church, and I never forget it. Was Bishop Bonner on 120, what that was 124th Street in 7th Avenue. And they sent me down. They said, go down there and let him pray for you. Let him pray for you. There was about 11 of us down there on our knees. And when he came around and put his hand on people just falling out. When he put his hand on my head and pushed me back like that, I came back up like a spilt. I didn't feel nothing. I didn't feel nothing. But today, I know the difference. I know the emotional damage that I was doing because of my behavior. So for that, I'm grateful to understand and thank God. You know what I mean? I don't have to live like that no more. I can be a responsible, accountable person because of these spiritual principles that I have in my life today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, William. And Jim, come on in.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Jim, and I am a recovered alcoholic. I read this many, many times, and for a long time, I really didn't. I didn't see much in it for me. But as time has gone by, I mean, I've been to a lot of meetings, especially in men's meetings. You kind of get uh, a few chuckles out of a few people about how, they're wrapping your husband in cotton and blah blah blah. And I don't look at it like that anymore at all. I'm not even confused about it because what it really brings me to mind of is my actions when I was drinking with the women that I was with, my wives, you know, and the things that I did. And it's kind of like it's a little difficult to flip it, but if you read it, it's kind of in a big way pointing out, you know, the things that I did, the problems that I was causing, and I've got it. I know it's a few pages back here from what we read tonight, but what stands out to me when I think about it is in this for this alcoholic here living in that strange world of alcoholism where everything is distorted and exaggerated. In nearly every instance, the alcoholic only seems to be unloving and inconsiderate. It is usually because he is warped and sickened that he says and does these appalling things. Just another very sick, unreasonable person. And I mean, that's not the only point, the only place where it brings it up. Every time it brings up a character defect of the husband, I can totally identify with it, and it puts me to mind of, the misery I put the people that loved me through, and I reflect on it. I take the time to reflect on it. Um, I like this chapter because, it can apply. It helps it to apply to everyone, of course. I mean, when resentful thought comes, try to pause and count your blessings. After all, your family is reunited. Alcohol is no longer a problem. You and your husband are working together towards an undreamed of future, and all these wonderful things can happen in your life. But the point of it, actually, I'm probably starting to ramble a little bit, but the point of it is living this spiritual life. Getting the spiritual end of it. I mean, I actually tried to read some of this and like to apply it to an enemy myself, and it was a little difficult, but it got me thinking about things. Though I'll tell you, if you could treat your enemy, you know, in a loving and spiritual way, maybe your enemy might start treating you back the same way also. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just food for thought. My mind's starting to wander. So thanks for listening, everybody, and thanks for having me here tonight. I love you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for your service too. Steph, come on in.
Hey, I'm Stephanie, recovered alcoholic. Grateful. I really like where it says, if you both show a willingness to remedy your own defects, there will be little need to criticize each other. So when I find myself being critical of, say, my spouse, which this could apply to any situation, but in any relationship, but since we're in AA, I'll say, my spouse, but once I get that little moment of clarity and I think, what about what the other person or the other party, what are they dealing with? I look at my character defects, my maladies, my issues, and suddenly theirs don't look so bad. So I really like that that spoke to me out of this chapter. I think it's really important for us to look at ourselves, or it is for me, when I start getting that snarky attitude, and I think, wow, Miss Perfect here. Wrong answer. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Steph. Xavier, come on in.
Hey, good evening, Xavier, recovered alcoholic. So glad to be here. I always love these chapters. It's so practical. Whatever happens in life, like this advice never gets old and never goes away. It's kind of solid. All the ups and downs, good and bad with life. But I love how there's that baseline of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I can always continue to look at the big book and all its teachings. And there's something really refreshing about, just going through the text, hearing everyone share. And it really enriches life for me, when I can apply these concepts to my everyday life. So it's cool too, because I remember last time we went through this, and I was genuinely a lot more angry at this chapter. And I was telling my wife, I'm in a much better place this time. Actually, I'm really enjoying this text. So it's weird how I could hear the exact same thing, and it hits me so differently. I imagine because I'm in a very different mindset, and my perception is very different today than it was last time. I heard this. Just with regard to the reading, I mean, it's really important for me to see both sides. And the longer I'm married, the longer I have children, the longer I'm just on this planet, and growing as a human being. I'm really, it's very humbling, and allows me to grow when I take into consideration how other people view me, how other people are affected by my behavior, which is not something I always really cared about. I mostly didn't care. And it's really, really nice. So, and then also, as was previously noted, just the practical parts. There's so many tools. It's so rich, these teachings, everywhere from, inventory prayer, practical suggestions that they talk a lot about later in the book, in these later chapters. And also, the longer I'm around and the more I study things outside of Alcoholics Anonymous, the more I think I have an appreciation for Alcoholics Anonymous, which is really cool. I really, really, really appreciate that. It's the more I get into outside issues through, step 11 and exploring my higher power, I think the richer it helps me understand Alcoholics Anonymous a lot more, which I really appreciate. and that really allows me to grow. So long story short, like what I found that works for me is as long as I'm sponsoring guys, work with a sponsor, do all the above. It's like my baseline. It doesn't define me. My alcoholism today doesn't define me, and I'm grateful for that. And what I found that works for me is Alcoholics Anonymous has to be my baseline. And what it does, it allows me to grow then as a human in all these different directions. And I'm not Xavier the alcoholic. I'm Xavier in the real world, like the worker among workers. And I get to go explore and truly do step 12. Bring all these principles and all these concepts that I learn on a day-to-day basis into the real world where for me it counts. With that said, I have that luxury because I keep coming back to my baseline and I keep it simple when it comes to Alcoholics Anonymous. Continue to learn these concepts, applying it, teaching it to others. And like, for me, like that's my sweet spot. And I'm very, very grateful that I have the life I have today. But it's only because of AA. And one last thing in 55 seconds, easy peasy. I had an old sponsee I worked with years ago who called yesterday and was drunk as a skunk and in a lot of pain. And I'm grateful I get to work with him again. He asked me to work with him, and I'm so honored and grateful. And when I get to work with sponsees, bringing them through the book, like I did another one, just went through created his 9-step list. Like those are the things that are really rad, and those are the things that keep me sober, and those are the things that allow me to be a husband, a father, a worker, just somebody in the world. So grateful for all this. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share. 9 seconds to go. Thanks.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other hands? No? Okay. I'll come in. Shayna, alcoholic. And I really appreciate everybody that has put this meeting, on. And it just reminds me so much of exactly why I need to be here. The first part of the study, I'm sitting here thinking about my husband and pointing my finger, and I'm like, oh yeah, see, I'll be the wife. I'll be the Al-Anon. And it wasn't until listening to other shares that I'm like, yeah, I'm the husband though. And I am this way when I'm in active alcoholism or if I'm dry. And I think that the lessons in here would help with any relationship. And I think what stuck out to me the most was the patience, the watchwords, the patience, tolerance, understanding, and love. Oftentimes I am so self-absorbed, self-centered, self-seeking, and I forget this conveniently. And I want to be right about everything and all of my wisdom and all of my glory, you know. And I'm so quick to point the finger that the other person is wrong. Like I live on this extreme world of right and wrong, no gray area. But I do love the part where it says, this is getting serious. I'm sorry I got disturbed. Let's talk about it later. Because never do I do that. At least not when I'm not in a healthy spiritual way. Usually I'm gunning it to prove that I am right and almighty, and I don't like that. Anyhow, I can learn a lot from this, and I hope that I do. And I think the application of it is where it's going to come into play in the real life. When just because you could say something doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to or you should. oftentimes I think I'm right, and if I just keep my mouth shut and listen a little bit more, I find that there might be more to it, and I'm usually surprised, and I'm usually taught something. So I thought that was, hopefully that makes sense. But we got 2 minutes before. Anybody else want to share that didn't have a chance? No?
I think Grand Elf is raising his hand, yeah.
Oh, are you? Oh, yay. Thank you, Grand Elf, saving me. Come on in. Thank you, Linda. I didn't see that.
I just didn't want to blurt in and stuff. Oh man, it's so nice to be home. Donald, alcoholic, and grateful Grand Elf to everybody and stuff. I just got home from having surgery on my foot, and I'm doing okay. I just feel like I just woke up with sleep inertia, which is, whenever you wake up from a real deep, deep sleep, and you just get that stuff. But I just wanted to let you know and stuff that I had to get here as soon as I could and get on and see my family. So I see Mr. Pickles still isn't feeling well this evening. Yeah. So my prayers are going out to him and all of you guys. So sorry I missed the meeting, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Well, thank you.
My name is Susan. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm not going to share with just a second. I just kind of wanted to thank y'all for being here for me. And I'm glad I was able to read and keep my mind off of some of the things that's just going on. I'm really struggling with the fact of losing my doctor. And I made several trips to the hospital this week. But thank y'all for being here for me and letting me read. And I'll keep my mind in the meeting. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you, Susan.
Condolences, Susan, condolences, and prayers with you.
All right. And then if nobody else wants to come in, I love all these little hearts.
They're for Susan. Yep. They're for Susan. Susan, I put my number in the chat if you need someone to call, okay? Yeah, I put my number in the chat.
All right, and if nobody else has a hand up to share, we will go ahead and close out. From page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we only know a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. And Before we close out with the Lord's Prayer, we'll go ahead and give a moment of silence for those that are still sick and suffering, both inside and outside of the meetings. Here's your moment. And in Lewisburg primary fashion, we hold our hands up in the screen. This is our electronic way of holding hands. And we will close out with the Lord's Prayer. Trish, you want to take us out?
I would love to. And anyone who wants to unmute and join me, please do so. Who brings us from shame to grace if we let him? Our Father,
Our Father,
who art
who art
in
in
heaven,
heaven, thy will
hallowed
be
be
thy
thy
name.
name. Thy kingdom
I,
come,
Kingdom
thy
come,
will be
thy
done
will be done
on earth
on
as it is
earth
in
Earth
heaven.
as it
as
is
it
in
is in
heaven.
heaven.
Give us
Give
this
us
day
this
our
day
daily bread.
Daily
bread.
bread,
Forgive us our
and
give us
forgive
trespasses
us
Give
our
us our
as
trespasses
we
as
and
forgive
as
we
we
those who
forgive those
trespasses
trespass
who
against
trespass
us.
against us.
And lead us not
lead
into
us not
us
into
temptation,
into
temptation,
but
temptation.
deliver us
Deliver
from
us
deliver us
evil.
from
from
evil.
Thine
evil.
is the
For thine is
kingdom,
the
The kingdom,
the power,
and the
and the
glory,
power,
glory,
forever
forever
and ever.
and
forever and
ever.
ever.
Amen.
Amen.
Keep coming back. It works,
Well,
but only
if
if
you
you're
work it,
working.
so
So
work it because
keep
you're
doing
worth
it.
it.
Worth it.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
Susan,
Good to
you have
see
my
you
number.
all.
Or
Good
she
night,
left.
everyone.
Gave her my number.
Good night.
Everyone
See
have a
you
good
all
week.
next
Yeah.
week, if not
Fireman
sooner.
Rick,
Bye, Rick.
Bye
Good to
bye.
see
Good night,
you.
William.
Have
Good
a good
night.
night.
missed you.
Tell James
But
you
you're
love him.
okay.
Feel better.
Felt like coming in and just listening.